Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for tonight's event with Tori Eldridge in conversation with Elle Marr discussing The Ninja Betrayed. Tonight's event will end with a Q&A, and to submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen. If you see a question on the list that you'd like for our speakers to answer, please click the like button, and it'll bump it up in the queue, and we will try to answer as many questions as time will allow. And please also feel free to engage with each other and the conversation in the chat area. Since we're virtual, it's lovely to know that you're here and engaged. So we love to hear from you too. And we'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn more about them on our website. You can sign up for our email newsletter. You can follow us on social media at Book Soup. You can follow our Crowdcast page right here to get direct notifications, and past events are also available on our YouTube channel. Also, please support Book Soup and our author tonight by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book. You can do that by clicking the green button right below the viewer screen, and it'll redirect you to our website where you can complete the checkout process, and it won't interrupt viewing, so you can do that at any time. And we do have signed copies from Tori, so get those while we have them, and we're lucky that she's local. And we're also doing a fun giveaway, but I will have Tori explain that to you because I think she'll explain that better than I will. We're also open for in-store browsing. So if you're local to LA, please come by the store 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, and we'd love to see you. And with that said, let me introduce our guest for this evening. Tori Eldridge is the Anthony Lefty and McCavity Awards nominated author of the Lily Wong mystery thriller series, The Ninja Daughter, The Ninja's Blade, and The Ninja Betrayed, and the upcoming dark Brazilian fantasy Dance Among the Flames, which is out in May of next year. Her shorter works appear in horror, dystopian, and other literary anthologies, including the inaugural reboot of Weird Tales magazine. Her screenplay, The Gift, was a Nickel Fellowship semifinalist. Tori holds a 5th degree black belt in Toshindo Ninja martial arts and has performed as an actress, singer, dancer on Broadway, television, and film. And you can find more at torieldridge.com. Our other in-conversation guest tonight is Elle Marr, who strives to tell powerful and compelling stories of women who demonstrate resilience in the face of great obstacles. She is the author of 2 thrillers, The Missing Sister and Lies We Bury, and I'll share links to those as well in the chat area. Originally from Sacramento, Elle Marr graduated from UC San Diego before moving to France, where she earned a master's degree from the Sorbonne University in Paris. When not working on her next book, she enjoys watching French Netflix shows with the subtitles off in Oregon, where she lives with her husband's son and very demanding feline. I know about those. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to Tori and Elle. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation. Thank you all for being with us on a Friday.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thanks for hosting us. Subtitles off, huh, Elle? Just keeping up those that French language chops, huh?
Trying desperately, yes. I don't know if it's a losing battle sometimes, but it's definitely entertaining from my end.
I kind of like to watch movies with English subtitles on. That way, if I miss anything, helpful. I can read it.
Yeah, I am definitely moving in that space as well. Well, I'm so excited to be here with you tonight to be speaking about The Ninja Betrayed. Thank you to Book Soup for having us. Check out this gorgeous cover, this beautiful jade cover.
Gosh. You have all 3 books next to you, and I do too. Oh my goodness, that's so fun.
Absolutely, my Lily Wong collection right here. Well, it's been 10 days since The Ninja Betrayed was released into the world. How are you feeling having a 3rd Lily Wong book baby out there?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, sometimes I have to kind of pinch myself. It's like, wow, I have 3 books.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. You know, I'm very excited about it. I'm very thankful too.
I would think so. I would think it's pretty exhilarating. Not only that, just having three Lily Wong book babies out there, but also the reception. My goodness, the LA Times said that The Ninja Betrayed is one of 5 fall mysteries you shouldn't miss. You got your 2nd starred review from Library Journal for the same series. And the Lisa Gardner said, Lily Wong is my kind of kick-ass heroine. I honestly don't know how it gets better than that. How are you feeling?
I'm really happy. I'm so thankful that readers have embraced Lily. You know, and it's interesting. The readers, they're young, they're old, they're men, they're women, they're martial artists, they're, you know, people who have never even thought about that sort of thing. And so I really like that she and her family seem to be so relatable to so many people. So that's very gratifying.
Absolutely. I imagine that's definitely what I've been seeing on Goodreads and across the reviews across the internet. I know that there are many viewers who have probably already purchased their copy of The Ninja Betrayed from Book Soup tonight, but I would love it if you'd share the premise of The Ninja Betrayed for anyone just discovering Lily Wong tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Lily is a Chinese-Norwegian modern-day ninja in Los Angeles. She's a protector and rescuer of women and children from violent situations. She works for a women's shelter, and she also finds people to help on her own. And, so in the first 2 books, she stayed in Los Angeles. She, had to deal with a bunch of wild Los Angeles Ukrainian mobsters and,
as one does.
as one does
In LA.
And, sexy assassins and oh my gosh. And then the second book, The Ninja's Blade, she did this deep dive into the commercial sex trafficking of youth. And so there were all these teenagers that were in trouble, and she had to dive deep in there to rescue them. But in The Ninja Betrayed, she and her mother go to Hong Kong because her mother has been summoned. She's Ma. That's what Lily calls her mom. She is the Los Angeles director for the grandfather's Hong Kong International Finance Company. And something's hinky going on, and there's a corporate attack on Lily's mother. And so Lily is there for moral support. And of course, it turns into much more than moral support as things get really out of hand. And what should have been a really fun vacation gets very complicated, because here she is, the guy that her mother and grandparents have been setting her up with in the first 2 books is there in Hong Kong on business. So this is a time also for Lily to really look deep into a lot of emotional baggage centered around, dating and love and self-worth and all sorts of things, and find out how she really feels about this guy. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I love The Ninja Betrayed in that there's a lot of coming of age moments for Lily, and that she's been this complete badass and this rescuer and this protector in the first 2 books. And then she really kind of just has this emotional arc, which I think is such the beauty and the magic of this 3rd installment. I want you to know that when I read the premise initially, the back of the book, I was like, oh, there's going to be such great food scenes in Hong Kong.
Of course. Of course.
And it did not disappoint. It made me hungry and also intrigued for another chapter at the same time. So well done on that end. You brought up some really great points in that you start your series in LA, in Los Angeles, the first 2 books, and then you travel to Hong Kong. I thought that was such a brilliant move to kind of keep things exciting and unknown for Lily as she's gotten to know the underbelly, the inner workings of Los Angeles. So she goes to a new spot to, discover that area as well. Did you always know that it would take place in Hong Kong?
I did. I always knew that, and I just trusted that the readers would be like, sure, this Los Angeles modern day ninja can go to Hong Kong. Why not? Who says I have to just keep her in Los Angeles? But yeah, right from the start, I always knew that if the series lasted long enough, she would get to Hong Kong. Just as I know that if the series lasts long enough, she will have to get to North Dakota. These are these are 2 places that she just has to get to. And it's just a question of how long the series runs. So this was the time for her to go to Hong Kong.
Oh, that's very exciting. I have a slight tangential question. So word on the street is that there may be a 4th book in the Lily Wong series. Is the setting going to be North Dakota? No spoilers, of course.
No,
okay.
I won't tell you where it is. You will know as soon as you get to the end of The Ninja Betrayed, you will know exactly where she's going. These 4 books happen very closely in time. So the second book happens 3 weeks after the first. The third book happens a month after the first. And you'll find out how soon the fourth book, once you finish the third. But because of that, the Ninja Betrayed takes place in a very specific week at the end of September 2019, during the height of the pro-democracy struggle. And because all these books follow so closely together, as I was, looking at Hong Kong at that time during that week, clearly this was the issue that I really needed to dive into. So in addition to this whole corporate intrigue, Lily has this teenage daughter of her grandfather's driver who is getting sucked into the pro-democracy protests and, in a lot of cases, the riots. And so once again, there's Lily helping out a teen who's getting into trouble.
Drawn like a moth to a flame, that one.
I know, right?
That Lily. Yeah, she's so great. I love that there was that also that thread in Hong Kong of her helping someone else. I thought that was so Lily and so consistent. No matter where she is, she'd find someone to help, or rather, maybe someone would find her to seek out her help and her expertise. I write standalone thrillers, so I don't know what it's like to pace several novels across such a short span of time. Did you always intend to do that with Lily's stories?
I from the moment that I wrote a short story where Lily appeared to me on the page, as soon as I wrote that short story, I knew it was the beginning of a novel, and I knew that I hoped that novel would be a series. I didn't realize that the books would follow this closely after each other. That's just what happened and how it worked out. And, there is an emotional arc all the way through because, what happens in the first book affects her emotionally in the second. And so there is that arc that I continue, but at the same time, like standalones, I want readers to be able to enter Lily's world at any time. So you could, if you wanted to, enter with the third book and hopefully be enticed to go back and catch the first or second, or you could read them in order. But yeah, so it is a little tricky, and writing the next one, wondering, okay, well, I need to drop the readers into her world so that they immediately know who everybody is and what that feels like without saying, okay, this is who everybody is. So yeah. There's a lot of art and craft in there where just a well-described sentence is sometimes enough to let you know exactly her relationship to this person. And then I just kind of, make sure that I drop those things in as they come up instead of all at once, so when you meet a person, you understand who they are and not before,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you executed that so well. I was reading The Ninja Betrayed being like, oh, this is the perfect, just enough context, like you're saying, to ferry someone along onto the next page and to provide the gravity of the situation. It was really well done. I love reading series, and I love your series in particular, just because Lily Wong is such a fantastic kick-ass heroine. Thank you, Lisa Gardner. And I think so many people identify with her. The themes of family and loyalty, and also struggling to find your place in that family and also outside of it.
I find that in your books too. Like when I read Lies We Bury, I just sank right into the main character's emotions and, the struggle and everything. And sometimes I think it's as different and specific as all of our lives are. And of course, our lives are all very unique, and our protagonists, their lives are all very unique and very specific. But I think at the core of all our characters and of us, right, all of us, are these common themes and emotions. When you're writing and creating characters, do you also, lock into that? Is that something you think of consciously, or do you just do it naturally?
I wish it was done
naturally. I am turning this around on you.
Yes. Thank you for asking. That's I do think it's something that I have to come to over the course of several drafts. I have general themes in mind when I begin writing, but it always kind of organically enhances itself throughout the process, and becomes more apparent to me as the author toward the end, or on my 30th draft. What about you? Do you have those themes did you have those things in mind when you began Lily Wong, and specifically this kind of her coming into her own, Lily Wong, in the Ninja Betrayed in the ways that she did?
Yeah, I did have, a lot of themes that I did want to cover. One of them is a coming of age, right? She's 25, and I set her at 25 for very good reason. The 20s, oh my goodness, what a volatile time. It is a time of extraordinary change and growth and doubt and mistakes and courage and insanity. And, it all happens in the 20s. And boy, was I ever relieved to get out of them. And so, so I wanted to put her in there because I figured, oh my goodness, I could keep going with this series for forever, because a character at that age is constantly learning, constantly reassessing everything. And the other thing that she's doing, because this series balances action, thriller, mystery, intrigue, and cultural family dynamic in equal parts. And so that family relationship, the other thing that happens when you're in your 20s is that, especially early 20s, is that you're finding out how to be an adult with your parents. And they're struggling with how to have an adult as a child, so it's very strange. And when you add to that the grief of having a sister who was murdered and that affecting the whole family, what happens is you have a lot of stuffing of emotion. You have a lot of displaced emotion. You have, people not saying things that they want to say. You have a lot of fear. You have, a lot of things that you're just kind of, holding inside and trying to figure it out. And of course, it comes out in ways that are not always the best. And so you get a lot of conflict, and conflict is great, right? So there are all these things that I think, and I think this is why there are so many readers, different kinds of readers, because you can relate from the mother's angle or the father's angle or from Lily's angle or from, grandparents' angle, depending on what age you are. And what that's like to be struggling with those kind of family relationships, right? So I knew that was something that was going to be a big thing. Another theme is guilt. Lily harbors a whole lot of, in my opinion, unearned guilt. In her opinion, she's living it. That's a hard thing to deal with. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And so she feels responsible, and she carries that, and it affects a lot. And she's not the only one, I might add. So, and then there's this whole, unfulfilled filial piety obligation that has fallen on Lily because her mother didn't take care of that. So there's so many things going on, right? And so these are the kinds of themes and fundamental relationship issues that I really wanted to dig my teeth into.
Yeah, it's so great because The Ninja Betrayed is an action thriller, but it's got so many layers of stakes that really makes it an emotional action thriller, which I think is such the beauty of The Ninja Betrayed. I was reading, there's a Goodreads reviewer today that said Eldridge just does such a phenomenal job of creating family dynamics in which you love your family and you fight with your family and you love them still. And I thought that was so well put and so accurate. You create these, like just what you described, these very complex but realistic relationships, especially when adding on the themes of things like guilt and grief. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
I would love to talk a little bit more about the 20s and Lily being a 25-year-old, specifically a theme that wasn't present really to this extent in the first two books, romance.
Yeah.
The extent to which she is very much considering a romantic relationship, I thought was really a fun addition. Did you always think that this would be the book where she would consider, I don't want to give anything away, but where she would really open herself up?
Yeah, it was, no, I didn't plan it. Like in the first book, I didn't say, okay, by book 3, no, it just kind of happened, there was Daniel Kwok, and then there was this natural evolution. And then I knew I wanted to continue with that. And so I'm like, well, he does have family in Hong Kong. He does have business that relates to Hong Kong. It seemed a perfectly natural thing for him to be there. And then I thought, wow, boy, now they're really gonna have an opportunity to figure out if this is something she can handle, because he obviously is interested, but she's just been hemming and hawing and, so
protecting people out of priority.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed kind of having her face her demons and decide how much of it she's going to tell him. There's so much to go through. Like, dating is not simple for her. Romance is not simple for her. It's scary as all get out.
Absolutely. And I love the culmination of so many of those themes and those questions and doubts that she has in The Ninja Betrayed. Daniel Kwok is such a dreamy character. Were there any real life inspirations that you had, people that or just movie stars? I was picturing Simu Liu, who is the action star of Marvel's new film, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Were you picturing Simu Liu also?
No, because I didn't know about him when I was first thinking about Daniel Kwok. I discovered him earlier this year when I got hooked on Kim's Convenience.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I'm really visual. I like having pictures of people. So sometimes they're people that I know. Baba, I think of my cousin's husband from North Dakota. He's a farmer, salt of the earth, and I have a little picture of Vern. I named Baba after Vern. Lily's father is Vern Knudsen, and my cousin is also Vern. And all of my relatives get a big old kick out of that. And so I have his picture there. I have Michelle Yeoh's picture when I think of Lily's mother.
Ma, absolutely.
Yeah, I had a mixed half Chinese friend of mine, her daughter in mind when I picture Lily, and so when I thought of Daniel Kwok, I was searching through the internet and I came across this photograph, and I think he's an actor. He's not a well-known actor. I don't even know his name. It was just this picture. And he's in this Mandarin collar, white shirt, and he's just looking like he just stepped out of the pages, looking like the perfect Chinese son. And I went, that's the guy. That's him.
That's great.
And then I just kept thinking of what Ma would like, what Gung-Gung would like, what would be the perfect guy that they would think she should be with. And it just turned into Daniel. And then it turns out he's got this really great sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly. He's the whole package.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have much of a sense of humor in the first book, but as he kind of, gets a little comfortable, it starts to come out. And so it's sort of interesting, but yeah, he is kind of dreamy.
Yeah, he had a great evolution as well, definitely. And considering, I think what you're describing is you maybe found this photo in stock photography. Simu Liu also did modeling of stock photography. The internet came out about 2 weeks ago, identifying photos that he took when he was 25, actually, many moons ago. So maybe it was.
Maybe it was. I'll have to look again. How funny that would be.
Yes, it would. Well, since we touched on actors, you have an incredible acting background. Every time I see you, by the way, this is the first time that you and I have spoken live in this kind of setting. Every time I see you in interviews or like ITW events, I always think Tori has such great energy. She's got so much life to her. She must have been an incredible actress, and maybe you're still acting now. Would you ever want to do your own audiobooks?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I would never want to for the Lily Wong books because I have the most amazing narrator, Natalie Nauda. I think she's done 130 books. She's award winning. She's also mixed Asian, and she was an opera singer, which I thought was just really great because I was trained in opera when I was, learning how to sing, for Broadway and whatever. And so we have that in common. But the thing that's great about an opera singer is that they're used to singing in languages. So they're very used to languages. And I remember going to her website, and her Mandarin was just like, wow, okay, that could come in handy. But here's the interesting thing. I certainly could. I certainly could do an audiobook. I used to do voiceovers. I used to be a voice caster. a podcaster. But I didn't even put myself in the hat for the Lily Wong books for two reasons. One, it was going to be with Blackstone Published Audio, and I didn't want anybody, for some reason, thinking that I had self-published the audiobook because I was the one recording it, So that was one. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was I knew that if I did it, it would take me 3-4 times longer than it would take a narrator, because I would be learning everything from scratch, and so I wouldn't have those just chops, and I didn't have the time. I had to crank out the second book. So, but would I be interested in, maybe narrating one of my books in the future? Not a Lily Wong book, but another book. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, who knows? Well, I would definitely listen to that myself. Really quickly, for anyone who has any questions, feel free to place them in the question box in the lower right corner. I'm going to be asking any questions that come up at the end of the hour. And also, Tori has a giveaway, a fantastic giveaway of Tabi socks. My favorite. I love them too. And then also you have signed copies as well, correct?
Yeah, I do. I signed a whole bunch of them, and they're also stamped with my personal ninja warrior chop. So my warrior name is Miyotoshi. It means warrior of the unfathomable blade. And that name was given to me by Stephen K. Hayes and Rumiko Hayes. And so that name is somewhere in that dojo kanji that's in my stamp. So that's
incredible. What a beautiful addition to signed copies. So anyone that asks a question will be automatically entered into this giveaway for signed copies and the Tabi socks.
Not for signed copies. That you can get through Book Soup. But Tabi socks. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you see these little paw prints? Yeah, that little paw print cute. There. If you read the book, you'll know what that's about.
Oh, I know what that's about. I know where that took place.
You know what that's about.
All right. Well, I had another question for you. Oh, shoot.
I know what I wanted to ask you. So here we are both, Asian American Pacific authors. Our books have a protagonist that is mixed Asian in there. Was this something that you wanted to dive into your own heritage? Have you seen yourself represented in other books? What moved you to do that?
Yeah, I think it was purely selfish. It was definitely selfish in that I did not grow up seeing a lot of representation of people that looked like me or like us, mixed Asians, either on TV or in literature. And the Asian literature that was available when I was growing up was very, it wasn't Asian American for me at the time growing up in the, 90s, 2000s. So I really wanted
Oh my God, you're so young.
I just dated myself. I did. I wanted to give my my heritage and my experience a voice and a platform in my own writing. I figure if I'm going to be writing this book, then I might as well take advantage of it and give window to this slice of life, of American life. What about you? Did you intentionally set out to have a mixed Asian heroine?
I didn't, because like I said, I was writing a short story and I was kind of stream of consciousness writing. I had a premise. And as I was writing this scene, I realized that she was mixed Asian. And I was like, okay, but I was just writing a short story. I didn't even know her name. But I knew she was a ninja, because that was a twist in the story. And so when I sat down to write the novel, then I thought more about her. And that's when I realized, you know what, I want to explore my heritage. So my mother was 3/4 Chinese and 1/4 Hawaiian. She's from Maui, and my father was pure Norwegian. He was from North Dakota, and they met and married in Japan, and my sisters were born in Tokyo. And, when they finally moved to Honolulu, then they had me. So though, if you take the little Hawaiian out of the picture, those three cultures were very important to our family. it was interesting the way Lily's father really embraces the Chinese. My Norwegian father really embraced the Japanese. He spoke beautiful Japanese language, and he just had an affinity for the architecture and the art and the food and everything. So I thought that was very interesting. And then, here I go and get a 5th degree black belt in Japanese ninja martial arts, although I did train a little bit in Chinese wushu, just like Lily. And I trained in American kickboxing and Korean tong soo-do and a bunch of stuff, a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, not too much.
In addition to singing opera and acting.
Well, no, that came after. Yeah. It all started with the performing thing. And then I just kind of kept changing, and everybody around me kept going, I love it. Wait a minute, it's like when I left Cats after I don't know, I guess it was about 8 months. I was in the original first national tour of Cats. And so we were in Boston for 6 months, and we were supposed to be in DC for 6 months. And about 4 months into that, I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to move to Los Angeles. I'm going to try my hand at television and film. And everybody in New York was like, what? Why are you going to do that? And then I, was a series regular on The Love Boat, and I did some other things in a Final Fantasy movie and stuff like that. And then, and I was also singing and, recorded a little bit with Brian Wilson. And at some point I was like, no, you know what? I don't want to perform anymore. And my family was like, but. And by then I had started screenwriting, and then, a little dappling here and there. And then I wrote a novel, but then I had these 2 young kids, and then I discovered the martial arts, and I didn't want to do the business of writing. So I put that away and just got crazy with martial arts, and, was like a full-time mom with projects. And, that's just kind of been my life, just sort of, it's been a very strange thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you've dabbled in a couple of different areas, just a few, to put it lightly. That's incredible. And I can definitely see how all areas of what you just described play into Lily Wong and in the Ninja Betrayed. That's so fun to see how things can come full circle. In planning the next books for Lily Wong, do you have an ending for her in mind, considering, we know how ever quickly changing life can be?
No, I don't have an idea of how many books there will be, and I don't have an idea of how it might end. I'm in the research stage of the 4th book. So, and my editor is aware that I'm writing a 4th book. So I feel fairly confident that there will be a 4th book.
Absolutely. With the reception that the Ninja Betrayed has received, it would be a huge mistake not to. Wow. Well, that's so exciting. I definitely knew I knew a fair amount about your background in theater, but I did not know you were in the original production of Cats.
Not the Broadway production, the original first national. So we opened a year after the Broadway company. Yeah, wow. It was super cool because the powers that be wanted to make changes on the Broadway company. And so everybody came back for us, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Trevor Nunn, the director, Gillian Lynn, the choreographer, everybody who staged the Broadway company came back to stage ours from scratch, which is not usually what happens with a national tour. And then when they made the changes they wanted, they put those changes on the Broadway company. So that was kind of fun.
That's great.
I know. Yeah.
Wow. Now I really want you to narrate the next audiobook of your next series. I know not Lily Wong, but the next one, because I feel like there's so much gold to be mined. So much gold there.
Well, I do enjoy reading. So, if you ever see, I'm going to do a reading on something, pop in, because I really do get a kick out of that.
I actually think I saw you in a noir at the bar. Is that correct? Did you do one?
I did a virtual one.
Yeah.
A
virtual noir at the bar, exactly.
Yeah.
And you gave such a great rendition of, I think, one of the 3rd chapters maybe of the Ninja Betrayed. I was reading it at that point, and I was like, "Tell me more."
Oh yeah, was it like a protest, like a pro-democracy protest in an airport?
I think it was when Ma, Lily just arrived.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun. I see a question in the chat section. where,
indeed.
let's see, it's from Kevin Campbell, and he says, what's your balance between pre-planning and mapping out your novels versus discovering more about your characters and key plot points during the writing process? That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm a heavy outliner, always have been since screenwriting, and I use a lot of that format when I am outlining, but my creative process starts with a germ. It's either something I want to discover, or it's a premise, or it's a place. And then generally a whole lot of research comes in until I find the thing that really interests me. And then out of that research will come plot ideas and characters and things like that. The only story that did not follow this method was The Ninja Daughter, which, like I said, just came, it started on its own. And so it didn't start with research. There was a lot of research that came after, but it didn't start with research. The Ninja's Blade started with research. The Ninja Betrayed started with a premise. Interestingly enough, The Ninja Betrayed came together the fastest of any of them. I knew Lily and Ma go to Hong Kong, family business trouble. That's what I knew. So I went for a hike, about an hour and a half hike, and I dictated on the hike, and I came back and I wrote out all those notes and sorted through it. And then the next day I went out for another hike to figure out, all the stuff that really turned it into a novel, everything that makes it from beginning and middle to end, but all that juicy stuff that ends up being the meat of it. And then I came back and I wrote that out. And then what I do is I take those notes and I put them into outline form until what I have is a chapter by chapter summary. I literally have roughly all the chapters with little summaries about what's important, or who has to be introduced, or what the objective is. And when I write a chapter, it has to have at least 2 objectives. Otherwise, it probably isn't worth having a chapter, or not worth having a chapter there. It's not enough that you get information. You have to get information and also have emotional angst.
Absolutely.
So it's got to fulfill at least 2 things: a character arc and a plot arc, or a relationship thing, and that kind of a thing. Once I get that set in my head, then I start writing. And the nice thing about doing this is I don't have to face a blank page. I always have in the notes section of Scrivener a little idea, a few words that just kind of give me a clue as to what's going on. Now, that said, I frequently find chapters that I toss out, and chapters that I need to put in, and sometimes chapters that I need to move, and sometimes characters that pop in that I hadn't accounted for or didn't realize were going to be that big of a deal. And then, of course, characters just say stuff, and it's like, well, I really thought this chapter was going to go one way and it kind of went another. And then relationships, that's another thing. The characters are talking and they're doing these things, and these relationships start to go somewhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, then I guess that's where we're going. And when I write, by the way, when I do dialogue, I'm a total method writer. I talk to myself. I act it out while I'm writing. And there was a scene, and I bet, Elle, if you just think about it, you can probably guess. There was a scene in The Ninja Betrayed where I'm writing and I'm acting out the dialogue, and I am ugly sobbing. Just ugly sobbing. And I'm doing this outside. I was writing in the patio. So who knows what my neighbors are thinking, because
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I can picture
these things out. It was crazy.
I can totally picture that scene. Oh my gosh. And outside too.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, my neighbors are probably going, what's wrong? Something terrible.
Worth it. It was worth it. It's a beautifully written scene. I think it was absolutely worth it. Your neighbors will forgive you. They'll look the other way. I love that. I have so many questions based on this question and your answer.
Oh, good.
Do you frequently use dictation to draft initial ideas? Because I know some other authors do that, and I haven't gotten into that myself. I think that's great.
Yeah, I take my phone, and there's a memo app, and the memo app has a microphone thing, and I can pause it so I can keep adding to it. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't connect to the internet because it's my, my memo. And then what I do is, as I'm doing that, it dictates it. It puts it, it's like a voice to text. And then I can copy it and I email it to myself. And then I copy that and put it in a Word doc. There's probably an easier way to do this. But I have yet to be able to dictate words that I want to keep. So I can't dictate the first chapter, but I can dictate notes. And sometimes when I just cannot figure out how to approach a chapter, I take my phone and I go for a walk. And I usually figure it out.
That's wonderful. Ray James in the chat says this conversation is an engaging combination of craft and entertainment. So,
oh, good.
Yay.
Yay. Perfect combination.
Thank you, Ray James.
Hey, by the way, folks, Ray James and Elle and I, we are all part of something called the Crime Writers of Color. And y'all need to Google us. You need to just go to crimewritersofcolor.com to blow your mind and expand your bookshelf to include all of these astounding writers from, all sorts of communities and very diverse books and just really quality award-winning books. And so go there. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely. That's such a great plug. I 100% agree with that. Of Color. Really, if you go to that website, there's just this huge library of titles that everyone needs to get into.
Oh my gosh. And it's all divided by genre and also by culture. So you can cross, trying to find out exactly what you want.
It's brilliant.
It's really great.
Absolutely. So you said that you go on walks sometimes, and by the end of walks, you usually figure something out regarding your story. Do you usually do walks to combat writer's block, or do you have other strategies?
Yeah, well, if I've been just kind of staring at a page and, it's been 50 minutes and I've put out one sentence that I know I'm not going to keep, then I definitely have to switch something up. And for me, I'm a kinetic person. I've always been an athlete. I was a dancer. I was a professional athlete, so moving really helps me. It helps me think. It helps me work out all sorts of things, and not just creative writing, essays, emails, interview questions, whatever. So yeah, really helps. Yoga sometimes just, I can't think of a plot or anything like that with yoga, but it can clear my head. So that maybe I can come back to it. The other thing that I find is I think it's really important for all of us, creative people in general, but everybody really, to understand our natural rhythms. At what time of day do we like to work? At what time of day do we focus best? At what time of day are we most creative? And once you get that in your head, don't waste your prime creative time doing something menial. Save that for when you don't need your focus, and same thing for exercise. I like to exercise at the end of the day. Some people need to do it first thing in the morning or it never gets done. So I think when we can understand our own rhythms, we become more productive.
I think that's such great advice, especially with the creative lens. I feel like I have a certain amount of gas in my tank during each day. And if I'm not careful, I'll use up the gas on other things that are not necessarily my books or my writing.
Yeah.
That's really great advice.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but creative writing takes the most focus for me. And so I need to start that early because I'm a morning person. And if I start it early, I can hang with it for hours and hours and hours, and sometimes right up until dinner. If I try and start it in the middle of the day or the end of the day, very difficult, very difficult. Now, if I'm working on research or outlining, no problem. That's wow. That's a different kind of brain. It's easier for me. But the creative stuff, words that I'm going to keep, I have to do that. And I have to start that in the morning.
Oh, I love that. That's so interesting. I'm probably the exact opposite. I have to really outline in the morning when I am 100% awake and focused. And then once I have the idea and a few pages written, I can just pop in and out as needed. I also have a toddler. So
oh, goodness.
I have to pop in and out when possible. I don't really have set times at this point.
Yeah. I can imagine. I have a granddaughter. I have not met her yet.
Oh, she's so cute.
Oh, she's adorable.
I've seen her on social media.
She's so adorable. She's 9 months old and she's in Shanghai. But here's an interesting thing. I've mentioned it in some other events too. I've had all of these just amazing, synergistic, serendipitous coincidences that have happened between this Lily Wong series and my life. So I thought up Lily Wong as a character, and I knew her mother was from Hong Kong before my son fell in love with a woman from Hong Kong and decided to marry her. Now, that's interesting, right? And yeah, so I was very fortunate in that I was able to visit Hong Kong with my daughter-in-law and visit her whole family who is still there. So I was able to see Hong Kong through her eyes, through her parents, with her brother, his family, her aunts, her uncles, her grandmother. She has an adorable popo. And so all of that helped me gain a real good understanding of, or a more local perspective, of Hong Kong. So I was able to see Hong Kong a little bit through a local perspective and also as a visitor, which is kind of what Lily's doing, and also, her parents and everything. So when it came to the whole pro-democracy thing, I wanted to be able to show this very complex issue from a lot of different point of views and stuff. So it's just a really interesting thing how life and art and life, it just never occurred to me that my protagonist's mother and my granddaughter's mother would both be from Hong Kong.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. How incredible. I love the way that you just put that. And also talk about an authenticated voice. Like, I was reading The Ninja Betrayed and thinking, I feel like I'm in Hong Kong. I feel like I'm there with Lily, and it felt so real to me, everything that you described, and even the relationships. I wondered while I was reading if you had been or if you had spent some time there, and it's clear you have family there. And I'm sure you have had firsthand experiences that informed your writing as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of and of course, I've been very concerned about what's going on in Hong Kong because of my extended family. So it was something that I was paying attention to. And then, of course, there's the family element. And then, of course, there is being in person. And then there was just a whole lot of research.
Yes, as with many books. But I know I said earlier I've selfishly written about mixed Asian characters to kind of give voice to my slice of life. But reading your books, I also felt so seen in that you're describing, Lily Wong's Baba and also her Ma, and then her family in Hong Kong, and just, throwing out familiar terms and names like Gung-Gung. It made me feel just represented, and representation matters so distinctly, especially in art and in literature. And it's something that I pride myself in being able to contribute to, and that I just love seeing and consuming myself as a reader. So thank you for writing The Ninja Betrayed, personally, selfishly.
Oh, that just warms my heart. I mean, somebody had once asked me, when did you first see yourself represented in entertainment? And I said, well, I guess that would be when I was cast in a guest starring role in the Little People, the Brian Keith show. It filmed in Hawaii. And when I was in 7th grade, I used to watch the show, but when I was in 7th grade, I was actually cast in there. And it was like, yeah, well, there you go. Represented. I'm seeing myself, and like you, I never really thought about, I was so weird, Hawaiian, Chinese, Norwegian. It's not like I'm going to see that anyway. And I didn't really kind of look for it. And but I read a lot. I loved novels, anything set in Asia, Japan, China, Taiwan, anything. You know, I was big into James Clavell and, all the stuff. I went nuts for all that, but it was usually in Asia, right? You know,
you were hungry for it.
It was Chinese in China. You know, my most important book reading in my youth was The Good Earth. That was the book that made the greatest impact on me as a reader, as a writer, that just like lit a fire under me and connected me with my heritage. But again, it's Chinese in China, right? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't see a lot of, especially mixed Asian, contemporary in the United States. You know,
exactly.
Something. Yeah. And here's the thing that I think is so interesting. I personally love to read about cultures. My own, sure. Other people's, absolutely. And so I love to read thrillers and mysteries and, you know, whatever that also has some kind of cultural component that makes me, you know, kind of see things in a way that I hadn't thought of. And I like walking away from that, you know, feeling like I've gotten a better picture of that, you know, greater empathy, more understanding. And not just for people and community, but even things like, you know, something taught me more about horseback riding or skydiving or, you know, scuba diving or, you know, something interesting. I like learning stuff and I like connecting with that. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, you know, so I think that's, you know, that's something that I want to give people, those little that little taste of kind of what I consider to be authentic modern ninja, you know, tidbits. I want to give that, and I want to give people the sense of, you know, this cultural thing, but I want to do it in a way that everybody can relate to it. You know, where it's just, it feels like, yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's a well-written novel. Exactly. Yeah. It's, I think it's been Lily Wong and The Ninja Betrayed they've all been, all three of your books have been embraced by the Asian American community, definitely, but also just across all readers and subsets of cultures. And I think it's really credit to the universal themes that we discussed earlier, family and loyalty and coming of age and, you know, being in your volatile 20s. And also a thirst for justice, I think. I'll say that.
Yes, and empowerment. And empowerment,
exactly.
You know, I'm way into empowerment, you know, and so I think I think we can all relate to that. Like you said, a thirst for justice and feeling empowered and feeling like we have agency and feeling like we have, you know, some semblance of control in our lives. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a little of that?
Who doesn't want that? Exactly. That's the best. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Those are my thoughts as well. How do you balance Lily's agency and her moving forward throughout your book with the threat, the constant threats that surround her, both emotionally and then sometimes physically?
Oh, well, yeah. See, that's where it lives for me. You know, I'm not as interested in you know, superhero kind of people who can just go out there. Yeah, you know, they take care of it. High body count. It, you know, no sweat off their back. Doesn't affect them. They're moving forward. They're isolated. They're lone wolf. They're just kind of doing their thing. And you know, next in line, we'll take care of that too. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy reading and watching those things. It's really fun, but it's not what I want to do with this particular series. With this particular series, I am of the belief that violence has a strong effect on us, whether it is happening to us or whether it is enacted by us or whether it is around us. And that's something that probably as a martial arts instructor and practitioner, I want to make sure that was in my books. That, you know, if Lily has to take action, those actions have an effect. And that effect has to be dealt with. and whatever that is, whether it's something that she absolutely embraces and is pretty clear cut, or whether it's something that haunts her, and some things do and some things don't. And these are the kinds of things that I think make her real to me, and make her layered, So I think that's the combination of it. She is a strong, stubborn, determined, proactive kind of person. So of course she will have agency. She's in her 20s. So of course she believes she should have agency.
Yes.
But again, we've established that when you're in your 20s, you mess up big time. So there will be repercussions for those things. And oh, well, we ain't none of us perfect.
Right. We'll deal with the ripple effect. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked briefly about inspiration for your characters earlier. Do you have a dream movie cast in mind for The Ninja Betrayed?
Oh, I go in and out with that. And I suppose one of the people that plops into my head would be like somebody like a Chloe Bennett, who is mixed Asian.
Yeah,
a lot of like when she's on. And she does like, kind of martial arty, that kind of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of thing, right? And of course, in a lot of things you'll find there are a lot of mixed Asian actresses out there. And depending on the role, sometimes they'll tone that down and sometimes they can bring that up. So sometimes you don't realize as much that they are, mixed Asian. And so I think that would be a very cool thing. If I could just, little, entertainment fairy, Michelle Yeoh, please.
Yes.
Like she really would, right? Because she's a starring, brilliant, I've loved her since Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I was going to say.
But if you're talking dream casting, yes, that
and she'd be the perfect Ma.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
She'd be so great.
Actually, the names escape me, but if you go to my website, torieldridge.com, and you go to the readers page, that's for book clubs and readers. It has super cool stuff. You can even see videos of me doing ninja stuff. You can find recipes, but there are book club kits for every single book. And the book club kit for the Ninja's Blade has dream casting. So check it out.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
wow.
it's super fun.
All inclusive.
It's super
That's
fun.
very smart.
I like book clubs. So if anybody out there, you want to do a book club or something, hit me up. I love doing that. It's so much fun.
Go to her website, contact her, and get her for your book club.
Oh, it's so much fun.
That's amazing. I love that. Do you, speaking of TVs and movies, or TV series and movies, do you tend to watch TV and movies, or do you feel like that's detrimental to your writing when you're drafting?
Gosh, I binge. So my husband is a television film producer. He used to be an actor as well. I was an actor. Our youngest son, who's 30, but he's living at home, is an editor for television film types of things. We have to. Yeah. So we watch 2 hours, solid 2 hours every single night, whether we're binging on television or we're watching a movie. And then I usually have some kind of story that I'm writing, usually a novel. And I probably have another novel that I'm editing. Right. And, I might be having a short story that I'm knocking around in my head. And then I have an audiobook that I'm listening to. And I have a separate novel that I'm reading. And I do this all the time. So there's all these different stories. So I don't know. In a way, I think each story, whether it's television or film or a book or an audiobook or what I'm writing, kind of gives me a break from the other one. It's like, okay, I can now I can do this. I can do that. And so, it's fun. Yeah, I keep a lot of stories in my head.
That's great. That makes sense. That makes total sense to me. I think there's this sentiment that writers, novelists consider certain TV series, maybe not movies, but TV series as maybe not improving their writing, or maybe deteriorating their writing over time, or having some kind of negative effect. And I've never felt that way either. I always think that if it's good storytelling, it's something that I want to watch, and something that I think will, I'll internalize and hopefully improve my own writing or my own understanding.
I also don't have a problem reading when I'm writing. I know some authors have a hard time reading other books when they're writing, but it takes me so long to write a book that if I saved all my reading time for when I wasn't writing, I wouldn't be able to read. But I don't find I find it invigorating and inspirational and entertaining as all get out, and a nice break.
Yeah, that's well put. That's exactly how I feel as well.
This has been so much fun. Oh my goodness. I just love talking to you, and thank you. I just want to thank you for joining me, because I didn't mention that before, but ever since I read Lies We Bury, and, we were approaching AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And you and I started connect because we were, promoting other, diverse books and everything. I just wanted to tell you that I just love your energy and your beautiful spirit and your lovely writing. And it was just so kind of you to have this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. I have a feeling, though, we've been talking quite a long time, that pretty soon Book Soup is going to be like, getting the hook, and we're going to be like,
no, not yet. We're not ready.
No.
Well, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me here to speak with you and celebrate the release of The Ninja Betrayed. I love this book, and I know so many readers have and do already, and I know so many more are going to discover it based on this chat with Book Soup. So thank you for having me. Book Soup, we are so grateful that we were allowed to chat tonight.
Thank you both so much for being with us. Such a great conversation between the two of you, whether it's like writing advice or just fun things about plot. That was really, really fun. So thank you both for being with us. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining us on a Friday night. I know it's Friday and people are getting out there again, but not everybody is. So thank you for joining us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your weekend. And congrats.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, Kevin Campbell, congratulations. Yes, he says yay. And Sam, I assume you can find his email?
I can, actually.
I will contact you. I don't think these will fit you. They might. But if not, I'm sure you can find somebody who will love them.
Well, thank you. And congrats, Kevin. And congrats, Tori, on your next one. And thank you, Elle, for being a great in-conversation guest. And everyone have a wonderful weekend again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.